That definitely seems to be a trend, especially here in North America. The respect bans keeping Kestrel out of the hands out of some of these top Kestrel players. Not too surprising because she is so strong in this current meta. Slimy Salamanders answering with the Tony ban as well. No surprises there. Idris with the first pick, though. That's a little bit different.
That's definitely a little different. It's one of those heroes that we usually see later in the draft because there are clear counters to it. You know, a Catherine can deal with an Idris very effectively. You can use a lot of other heroes that can, you know, just get onto this Idris and prevent him from being able to use his mobility. You know, a Batiste is another pretty solid counter to the Idris. So it's very surprising to see it first picked. But thus far, Slimy Salamanders, they're sticking to their guns. They're not drafting to counter pick right now. They are just focusing on what they feel is the strongest.
Definitely, and they got the Samuel to pair with the Lyra. Super strong duo, very good at kiting. I actually kind of like that they didn't just immediately grab the Celeste, especially Celeste and the Idris, because she's not as mobile as what a Samuel would be. Samuel's going to be able to use the very slight dash that he has out of those mouse inverts to try and get away from those chakrams, which I think is going to be really helpful.
Not only that, but Samuel's sustain when he's inside of a drifting dark, throwing out those mouse inverts, the lifesteal that he's getting off of the spells is just massive in a fight, especially if you have someone trying to dive onto you. Put a little bit of distance and heal yourself back up.
Absolutely. The Grace there to facilitate Idris for whenever he does decide to go in and dive with that ultimate ability. Taka and Gwen coming off the board as well. Very surprised how much priority North America is putting onto this Gwen pick, even though Tri did make it work. I'm not necessarily sold on it being the best pick in the meta. Krull, on the other hand, definitely one of the best picks in the meta.
Yeah, I feel like the Gwen is a solid pick that you can grab like late in the draft if you need that carry, but to put it on a ban is a little strange for me. I don't feel like it's a pick that is worthy of a ban. Like you mentioned, the Krull going to be grabbed there by Slimy Salamanders, another one of these strong picks that can make plays early on, put pressure into the lanes, especially up against an Idris. You know, Idris takes a little bit to ramp up, especially if you're going down that crystal route. You can just really punish the Idris in lane very, very heavily.
Till Rehab following things up with the Adagio, and now a Celeste pick. I don't know how she's getting this far into the draft. It's honestly really is amazing. I'm assuming that Slimy Salamanders just doesn't, or I'm assuming that Slimy Salamanders does have a game plan in order to get onto the Celeste in the back line.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be, like you said, the Celeste getting through late into the draft. Very, very surprising. It's happened twice now where it's been picked in like this third or fourth slot. So it just I don't know, it feels like it's still the strongest hero in the mid lane. It's been used to great effect over in Europe. It's been prioritized in Europe. It's been prioritized by a lot of other teams, but all of a sudden here in North America today, it's been dropping down deeper into the draft. Vox actually also getting through. We've seen a lot of bans being put onto Vox as well, so he's another one of these heroes that gets really heavily contested once we're later into the draft.
Absolutely. He's one of those heroes that can counter, especially all the healing coming out of Adagio in the Grace. He picks up that Poison Shiv and absolutely cuts it down very, very quickly. And now that he has this front line of Krull and Lyra to play behind, that's going to make it very easy for him to maneuver around these team fights, get those breaking point stacks, and just make sure that as these team fights, if they aren't ended quickly, he's going to be super stacked up and hitting very hard towards the end of them.
And now where are they going to go for the final pick? Because you figure they want another bruiser. They really only have Krull as a strong frontliner. I would expect something else that has that frontline potential. Rona is going to be the pick. I was going to say Rona or Grumpjaw perhaps could have been a choice, but having Krull and Rona on the same team is not something we see very frequently.
The built-in mortal wound out of Rona, I really like that as well. I think that counters the Adagio and the Grace very effectively.
So we had some surprises in both the picks and the bans, but now that those are in, which players are we looking at this game? Tasty, start us off.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking for, on the side of Tilt Rehab, I want to keep my eyes on Esme. He has been one of these players that, you know, he's been kind of up and down in the games that they've looked better on. He's looked better. When he doesn't look very strong, the team just kind of gets rolled. So I really want to see him be that more consistent sort of rock that the team can kind of rely on, you know, being the strong player, especially when you have that sort of consistency, that stability in one of your roles, you can build the rest of the team around it.
Absolutely, and I think Esme has a huge potential to be one of those breakout stars for 2018 in 5v5 on the Sovereign's Rise. He has great fundamental mechanics, and as long as he can find the synergy with his team, continue to expand his hero pool, I really think we might see big things out of him later on this year. On the flip side of the coin, on the side of Slimy Salamanders, Status, absolutely powerhouse jungler on the Halcyon Fold, now on the Sovereign's Rise. He took a little bit of a break from competitive play. He did not start off slow in 5v5, picking up a ton of kills. Super comfortable on this Kroll, finding great ganks, great engages that from Hell's Heart on Adagio, phenomenal.
Yeah, he kind of took over that game yesterday against Rogue. It was really, he was the one making a lot of these plays happen across the map. So the fact that he's got that comfort pick once again could be something that's very, very scary for the side of Tilt Rehab to deal with.
All right, the game is underway, so we're actually going to go over to Humanist and Denominate. Take it away.
Wow, what a delicious analysis by our panel. And that's right, we're into the second match of the day for North America. We got Tilt Rehab versus the Slimy Salamanders. Denominate, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great on this wonderful Sunday here, Humanists. Finally warming up here in Michigan. I think it's like 63 degrees outside, so that's,
oh my goodness,
that's nice. It was like 40 and snowing all last week.
Basically summer.
It's basically getting there, so that's pretty exciting. But we're here to watch some Vainglory. Obviously, Slimy Salamanders up against Tilt Rehab. And I think Flash made a great point, is Esme really might be one of those players to watch where he can really make or break this team. So keep your eyes on Esme here on the Adagio for this game.
It's a lot of pressure to live up to. And what's that do to the mentality of a player?
Hopefully it hypes him up, knowing that, you know, the analysts think very highly of him. So, you know, hopefully we'll see some good plays out of Esme here today. Obviously up against the Slimy Salamanders, who had a fantastic performance yesterday. Status on that Idris absolutely destroyed the opposition, and got a little bit of a fight breaking out over the Crystal Treant here.
A little bit of a cat fight happening here. And the fight will continue. It looks like Maokai might be the first to go down. No, jumps back in. Xenotech could be left for dead. In fact, Xenotech's going to be going down. That's going to be the first blood. Let's see if they can look for more. Iraqi Zoro trying to getting a lot of damage down. Popping that flask at the last second. Now Tilt Rehab getting on the board first.
Yeah, first kill going over to Jazzville, and that is honestly the best target they could have possibly got that on. Obviously, Celeste loves to get to that late game phase, especially, you know, even just hitting that level 8. So getting that a little additional gold and little additional experience is definitely helpful for them. In fact, got that Crystal Treant buff as well. So Jazzville's sitting in a great, comfortable place right now, and Xenotech is going to have a very massive mid-game spike, and that's where we're really going to start to see him abuse some of those rotations, as well as Status, you know, getting himself a weapon power buff and making those ganks happen. That's really what's going to accelerate Salamanders in this game.
Well, I always enjoy a massive mid-game spike myself to dominate, but how will we know that Xenotech has reached that point?
It'll happen specifically once he hits level 6 and has that Serpent's Mask online. That's where Rona really starts to tank up on that front line. The Red Mist, while it does heal from the Serpent's Mask, it also gives you that fortified health, so enemies are dealing less damage to you too. So that's definitely beneficial for the Rona. Archaic, he's got his 5 crystal bits. That means he has his ranged attacks on. They are a little bit weaker than they were when he came out. And then obviously we're still in 3.1, so they haven't been nerfed down a little bit further, but you know, still a very comfortable pick. And just coming out of the jungle, he doesn't have to commit that early gold to that to the Book of Eulogies, so he can go straight into those 5 crystal bits and can start making those lane rotations, as we see him pushing Xenotech back behind the turret right now.
Excellent breakdown. I think that makes a lot of sense. And in the meantime, yeah, Salamanders invading the jungle, getting a small net worth advantage, kind of abusing Status on this Kroll. And as they rotate around thus far, Tilt Rehab not really looking to match that force.
No, they're not. And I do want to point out that despite that very, very strong early game coming out of Tilt Rehab, thanks to the rotations through the jungle coming out of the Salamanders, they maintain a gold lead at this stage of the game. But Xenotech's got to defend this bottom turret right now.
Well, Xenotech's going to do his best, but level 3 Rona, that's not the mid-game power spike we're talking about. This is too early, too much pressure, and Wrecked forced to come down here and play a little bit of a babysitting game.
Yeah, but they can afford to do that because right now Iraqi Zoro has the mid lane pushed, and that's something that Slimy Salamanders has gotten much better at since some of the earlier tournaments that we saw of 5v5. You know, we didn't see as aggressive rotations coming out of them. I think they've really worked together and put the time and dedication into practicing together, and it's really benefited them looking at them coming in here to the VPL preseason. So very excited to see them doing well, and you know, possibly in the top 3 teams, I would even be willing to say.
Yeah, dude, I want to hear your breakdown of the top teams.
I think right now it's probably the top 2 are between Tribe and TSM. TSM historically so far has won out in 5v5, but I think, you know, so far we've really only seen best of ones. So,
right.
You know, there's realistically could go either way in the long run. River shops are now online. This is going to start to give those side laners a little bit more opportunity to shop without having to recall all the way back to base. Important to make note, though, of what side the shops are on. So Rekt and Xenotech have the favor in bottom lane, but then looking at the top lane, it's obviously going to be Maokai and the jungler are going to have their side rotation there.
Well, you said Rekt and Xenotech have the favor, but, well, actually, it was Tilt Rehab that zoned them from the shop. They haven't been able to shop yet, but Status has moved down. They have the vision. That's going to be from Hellsart connecting onto Archaic. Now he gets back. A little bit of damage coming out as the verse connects onto Status. Has Status gone too far? He's pretty low. They look to turn it around. Status able to retreat back. We'll get him powered up one more time. A lot of damage being traded on both sides, but juggled well thus far. Jazzville finally making his way down to the party. Only level 5 at this point. It seems like everybody's going to be able to get out of here. Rex and Xenotech still haven't been able to shop yet.
No, they haven't, and it was a great rotation coming out of Tilt Rehab. That's actually going to get them the bottom turret as well. Esme, although they did not pick up a kill in that last fight, was having an absolutely massive impact on that fight. That Poison Shiv first item gives him that attack speed, able to buff himself. He stunned up Kroll underneath the chakram, so double pass came through, and then was able to chase down the enemies. Again, not able to get the kill, but also reducing the healing that Lyra was able to put out. So Esme doing a great job so far this game.
Great job thus far, and one of my favorite builds to watch. I love to see that weapon Adagio kind of come to fruition.
Sorry, I missed that. Humans, what was that?
Oh, it's just one of my favorite builds, the weapon Adagio. Now, Esme taking a lot of damage. Xenotech saw him moving into the brush. Couple more right-click, just auto attacks, and he'll go down.
Xenotech able to pick up that kill. He does have the turret on his side down. Not quite level 6 either, but he has the gold in pocket to pick up the Serpent's Mask. So we'll have to see when he does go ahead and get that. Mixi up in the top with Status, and Rekt were able to push down that top turret. So 1 for 1 on objectives right now. Still a slight gold lead on the side of the Salamanders. Xenotech likely going to hit the shop up after this treant here, get his Serpent's Mask, or he might yeah, nobody's gonna beat him up there. So he's level 6. He's got his Serpent's Mask. This is where he starts to get into that mid-game spike. I do feel like it's a little bit later than we'd like to see, but he's got it there. He can start building some defense, and he really just wants to be the front line so that Iraqi Zoro can A, throw in those empowered Malice and Verdicts, and B, Mixi can start to get into his portion of the build, get into the breaking point, start to scale up, and really start to be the hyper carry.
Mixi ready to become that hyper carry. He's already here. He's already joined the party, throwing the weight for it. Nothing will come of it. Now down towards bottom side. Interesting movement. Maokai jumping in onto Xeno. Xeno really not threatened, but I guess kind of just an aggressive maneuver out of Maokai, just kind of flexing on him.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like we got a rotation coming down from the Salamanders. This might be our first real big team fight if they end up going for it. Ali Peterson and Jazzville are quite low, though, so might be a little bit risky of a call. The Celeste basically had no opposition last game in the Hammers versus Vision matchup. That's not the case this game.
Ali Peterson taking tons of damage. Will go ahead and blow that fountain early in this fight. Rekt holding his, and it looks like the Salamanders have advantage, but the gauntlet comes down, splits the fight. The verse will connect as well. Huge stuns inside a choke point. Esme drops Xenotech on the other side. It's the Salamanders that have lost 2. Ali Peterson stays alive on a sliver of health. giving that Vanguard, slingshotting teammates forward. Mixi and Rex trying to kite backwards. Iraqi trying to apply damage with the Malice Verdicts. Mixi, has he been caught? That's okay, Maokai's gonna drop off of that. It looked like this could be the end of that fight. It looked like there was gonna be more kills off the back of that one.
Yeah, it looked to be the case, and while that fight very early on looked like it was going to the Salamanders, a beautiful gauntlet coming through out of Ali Peterson, stunning up 3 targets on the side of Salamanders, allowed Esme to get that Verse of Judgment off, which resulted in another team-wide stun, and that's where the side of Tilt Rehab really started to take over control of that fight.
Wrecked with the port in, Xenotech trying to follow up with the Red Mist. That was a very aggressive portal in by Wrecked.
Yeah, it was, and unfortunately they weren't able to make anything out of it, and now Xenotech's got to be very careful as Rehab's down here ready to go.
Xenotech's not going to be careful. Look at that. He jumps forward. Why be careful? You're No, Xenotech!
That's why.
He went down. Okay, I got it.
That's why.
You need to be the voice of reason for him to dominate. Ali Peterson taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, Archaic's at a strong point in his build right now. The Shatterglass first, again, we talked about it a little bit earlier. While it doesn't provide that scaling 20 Dragon's Eye stack madness, it is a lot of upfront burst, and it does a lot of damage on your basic attacks as well with that Crystal Divergent Path unlocked. So you've got to be careful with Archaic.
Sun's gonna land onto Esme. Ghost Swing captured by Tilt Rehab as the Salamanders are gonna look to get something done here. Status wants to get in position, but he looks incredibly slow. Get in that Arcane Passage, your team's going, bud. Wrecked was ready to chase. Raki Zoro gets just shredded with a Solar Storm. Put down. Jazzville happy about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to help keep some health on the turret here for the side of Tilt Rehab. They don't really have a wave, though, that they can counter push at this point either. With that one Captain Mini here, it does look like Celeste just going to go ahead and recall. Probably going into the Spellfire second, and then going into the Clockwork third item here on Celeste is what it appears to be. Esme, still only got that Poison Shiv realistically for damage. He does have the Blazing Salvo as well, and then the Weapon Blade. Not quite into a breaking point yet, though, so we'll have to see where he goes with that build. Ali Peterson has the Crucible complete, and that's going to be a key component for blocking out that Oblivion coming out of Iraqi Zoro. So,
Breaking Point picked up.
Yeah, Breaking Point now picked up by Esme.
Breaking Point picked up. He moves in. Immediately starts to go to work onto Wrecked. Wrecked with the Bulwark down. They're going to look to negate some of the damage coming out, but Turret just popped as Tilt Rehab group up here and apply pressure in this mid lane. Let's see what the answer is going to be from the Salamanders.
Now, the answer from the Salamanders right now is probably just farm up and get your builds a little bit further online. Jazzville and Archaic are both at a very scary point in their build with a 2-item spike as well as an infusion in pocket. Same with Esme. So if a team fight breaks out here, by all means, Tilt Rehab, they have the build advantage for this one.
Slimy little Salamanders able to quickly take a turret of their own. Now, Esme's going to go ahead and push this. This is a 5 versus 4. Wait for it, comes out, but not quite landing the way they would have liked. Now, Status isolated from the fight, and so is the Celeste. Now, Status making the rotation around. Divine Intervention keeping Jazzville alive, but not long enough. Maokai jumps in, Ali Peterson as well, but Ali goes down, and suddenly they're going to lose Archaic as well. A complete disaster as the Salamanders just cannot be taken down. Esme will continue to shove down that bottom lane, has got the turret, and is now onto the armory. Actually doing pretty good work there. 3 Salamanders in mid lane still haven't taken down the base turret. Esme is single-handedly winning this race. What just an intelligent decision.
Yeah, here comes Xenotech, though, and that armory, is it going to live? No, that means it's going to die and it's going to go.
Done. Look at the calculations made by this Adagio, and now the Salamanders are in trouble. They got to get out of here. The Solar Storm tears on through Iraqi. Mixi should be able to get himself out of here with the Sonic Zooms, and Rex will pull up for a port back. Woo! This one, a little bit back and forth.
Yeah, I think Salamanders made a really good call there, going for the turrets and then picking up the fight off the back of it, obviously. Stayed a little bit too long at the end of it, though. Meanwhile, it was a 4v5 there in the mid lane. As you mentioned, Esme single-handedly pushing into the base of Salamanders, destroying that armory, so at least trading out even for the turrets in the armory there. So mid lane is going to push strong for the side of Tilt Rehab. Oh, we've got Status and Couple deaths down here.
Yeah, Status only had eyes for Jazzville. Takes that Celeste down. Archaic will drop next. Suddenly, there's no damage for Tilt Rehab, and the Salamanders can clean up from there. Very easy. And that's a huge, huge win. That's 4 kills for them down there. Even though that did go, I believe the Ghost Wing went over to Tilt Rehab.
Yeah, the Ghost Wing did go over to Tilt Rehab, but unfortunately without Maokai there, without that divine intervention coming out of this Grace to keep Jazzville alive, he just got jumped on. And, you know, I touched on it earlier. Last game between Hammers and Vision, Celeste literally had no competition for damage. This time around with Xenotech and Status, that is not the case. We have 2 heroes that are very tanky, can dive into that backline and burst down that Celeste, and that's where Jazzville's struggling a little bit, is with Xenotech and Status, with the Tension Bow proc, and then just how tanky they are getting onto his face.
What's the play? I mean, what's he gonna do?
They gotta groove up together. You know, again, that Divine Intervention and Holy Nova are absolutely massive for Tilt Rehab and keeping this Celeste alive. That AoE stun onto both melee heroes can really swing a fight very quickly.
Let's see if they can find some lockdown, find a way to zone for the Celeste. I know that Jazzville can definitely apply the damage if given the opportunity. We saw that last fight getting isolated, Divine Intervention, keeping the Celeste alive almost long enough to turn it around, but not quite. Now Blackclaw being captured up. Tilt Rehab will move around the west side here. The Salamanders are grouped up. An interesting portal is going to go ahead and allow them to get onto the backline. Holy Nova finding the stun. Denominate making the call, but now they collapse onto Jazzville. Jazzville torn down. Esme getting ripped apart. Able to stay alive long enough to turn it. 3 for the Salamanders are down. They've got the focus and the fire. Archaic didn't go down. They have the damage to apply. Status will die on the backside of this fight. It looks like Mixie will be chased down on the top side of the fight. And are you kidding me?
Oh, Status!
You got this right? Status able to get one? That's godly. No way. No way. Who is this guy? Status, he plays like a guy I knew called Status Baked. Status Baked to God, but now he'll be collapsed on. That's going to be the Atlas Pauldrons. The hype has fallen. No, and block it off. He stays alive. Give him a Spectral Spine. Get him, Status. Oh, he'll even take a turret. What a god. It doesn't even matter. Have you ever seen a player that good?
While Status did drop, in the end, he was able to bring down Archaic and hold out the death timers long enough to not give the ace over to Tilt Rehab, which obviously would have spiked them up to full health. That being said, Tilt Rehab are now the ones with the Black Claw aggro.
Xenotech, interesting positioning. He'll get a heal and a fountain coming out, but Xenotech taken down. Now Iraqi in that Drifting Dark moving forward, but really respecting Tilt Rehab. He's going to go ahead and pull off of that. Wrecked. Dropping the sigils off cooldown right now. It doesn't seem enough to keep these guys in fighting shape when the burst starts to descend upon the Mixie. Moving forward, trying to land damage, but the supernova exploding on the Salamanders. Celeste really coming into her own right now. Jazzville looking to throw the Helios over the wall. There is a scout cam down. Salamanders rotate, ring around the Rosie, ring around the Rosie. Grace is going to be able to get it now. Splash damage comes through, but it's wrecked to fall first. This is going to be the Samuel and the Vox staying alive. Status is here now. Status, go get him! Status! He's got the stun onto Jazzville. They take the Celeste down. Blackclaw's going to march down the lane, but Xenotech's respawn. He jumps on, and he'll be able to take down Esme. A 3-for-2 trade, and with that, the Salamanders will collapse back onto the Blackclaw. Should be only 1 turret going down, if that.
Yeah, and Iraqi played that near perfectly in that fight, dropping that Drifting Dark, kiting around the outside of Blackclaw's pit there. Now, he wasn't able to get the steal, but we saw those massive empowered Malice and Verdicts coming through and absolutely ripping through the health bars of the side of Tilt Rehab. The Divine Intervention had already been used by Maokai, so they didn't have that additional healing, and it resulted in Salamanders picking up a couple kills off the back of Rehab, actually getting that Blackclaw. So as long as we keep getting coordinated fights and takes coming out of Salamanders, I do think they can maintain control in this game, but now with Celeste at such a scary state and Archaic picking up a broken myth for himself as well, these fights really can go either way. We have to see clean execution coming out of the side of Salamanders. If they portal in and they're able, the side of Tilt Rehab are able to get a full team core collapse and Holy Nova again, then it's going to be rough for the side of Salamanders.
I mean, that's literally how I'm seeing it right now, Daynoms. It's just like, Holy Nova connects on 1 or 2 key targets, it's easily turned around. Archaic lives, it's easily turned around, but Salamanders, they have the potential to burst down these key targets. They've showed it over and over again, and wouldn't you know it, this overall net worth is still quite close 19 minutes in.
Yeah, still pretty close. We do have a little bit swinging in favor up tilt Rehab right now. Again, we do have Armory for Armory. We have 3 turrets remaining on each side of the map. So very close. And this is really the vainglory we like to see, right? We don't want to see that massive snowball. We like seeing the games that are very even back and forth. And it's so much more exciting. So these two teams really putting up a fight. And you know, realistically, still could go either way. We have to. There's a clear win condition for the side of Salamanders. They have to get a clean execution, getting into that back line and bringing down the Celeste. Versus Tilt Rehab, they really just got to tank up that front line. They really just have to peel a little bit for Celeste and really let Jazzville come through with the carry.
Yeah, it feels like Tilt Rehab are like the Spartan fighting force, right? Like they're gonna allow the Salamanders to like clash into them, survive that initial burst, and if they're able to survive that, they just push forward, just decimating, slowly taking down the Salamanders, and there's nothing they can do. Once Tilt Rehab survives that initial jump in, because Status is then isolated, right? He's very vulnerable. If Rekt portals himself forward, he's vulnerable as well, and they really have to focus Heroes down. So it does lead to a very interesting kind of team fight, though.
Yeah, and you know, realistically, I do want to make a point about you saying Rekt aggressively portaling in. That has been a case for a majority of those arcane passages, but the real problem has been is the team hasn't been quick to follow up, and when they have, it's been the wrong targets going through first. We've seen a couple where Iraqi Zoro is the first one through the portal, and that's super risky for your mage, who really is going to be your hyper carry on the team.
It is indeed.
Black Claw back on the map now. Anybody's chance to take that one. Here comes Rekt.
They all go through incredibly quickly. This time Esme pulls up for the verse. He'll catch one stun, another stun coming on through, and Xenotech about to fall, but the lifesteal able to keep him alive with the fountain. Mixi, though, getting taken down. A Holy Nova, a little bit off the mark. They've taken out Status. Mixi, Xenotech as well. They survived the initial burst. A lot of splash damage coming out. He's going to be getting 2. Iraqi Zoro making that Samuel work. Rekt still alive here with Iraqi. They'll move forward because Ali Peterson and Maokai both low. Portal forward, another drifting dart. The right intervention, but he gets held in place and taken down. Can the Malice and Verdicts connect here? Not quite onto the heroes. They're going to be ranged to get a little more damage done. Is there anything they can do here? What are they going to be doing?
It looks like Iraqi Zoro and Rekt might just be looking for the kills here.
It feels like a bold call, but they're getting work done. Ali tanking up a lot of damage here.
Here comes the teleport
another
boots.
heal. Say what, bud?
Teleport boots. Mixi's here.
Yeah, the parts forward. Suddenly, a massive advantage. Will they be able to stay alive if they can get back to the healing platform? Where's the CCs? Where's the lockdown? What a strategy. What a slimy, slippery, salamandery strategy coming out here to find the GG. 22 minutes in.
Great play there at the end. The whole team sells their boots, picks up those travel boots, ports in, ending the game. Archaic almost made the god plays, almost teleport boots to the minions that were in the Salamander's base. With the death timers the way they were, he may have been able to close out the game if he would have been able to make it out alive. Just falling shy though. Iraqi Zoro and Rekt turning that fight around.